Hello. Hello, I'm Xuefei. Today we talk a little bit about uh, Sweden's strategy in fighting against COVID-19. It is well known that Sweden actually chose a special way suitable for itself. This is what they said. From the very beginning, Sweden didn't close down like many other countries, especially when they see that in Wuhan, people close the city and all stay at home. They actually feel that was not very very good. But they also get a lot of information from China's experience. For example, they understand that young people are not easy to get infected, and even the young people get infected, they are capable to survive. So they are different from the older people. So from the very beginning, Sweden called on people not to visit the elderly home. So people are forbidden to go to elderly home, and they should take social distancing. So the main thing is to rely on people's self-responsibility. So in comparison with China, the government take a big initiative, give a great promotion or propaganda or publicity about the rules, and there are people really looking at each other and take a very strict methods and make great efforts so that to make the infection as less as possible and rescue people as many as possible. And thanks to the Chinese medicine, Chinese treatment, a lot of people who infected the COVID-19, they can survive and they recover sooner. In Sweden, they know this result, so they said, okay, to avoid the intensive care to be too crowded, they refuse to take any patients who get infected light. So only those who cannot breathe will be taken to intensive care. And I'm sorry, it's someone always back and forth here, so there's a noise. I continue with this. So what I mean is, from the very beginning, Sweden take a strategy to keep. They said that they want to keep the curve in a flat way. That means you have a sustainable long-term infection, but not in a very drastic way to take the patients or take all the patients into the hospital. So the hospital become intensive care, get too crowded or collapse. This happened in Italy or Spain or early stage in China also. So when the hospital get too crowded and collapse, then it actually did a bigger harm to many people, not only the patients, but also the doctors, nurses. So here, take that lesson. So they have never get the situation that the intensive care was over crowded or too full. They always have a few beds available. So in that case, or in that sense, it was quite smooth. But on the other hand, in terms of lives, Sweden actually got a record high in the per capita, according to the population. Sweden has about 10 million people, and they have more than 5,000 people died. So on average, it's quite a high number. They only compare that with Belgium, which they thought Belgium is almost similar or even worse. But what happened in Sweden? Why you have so many people died? Actually, it is like this. So from beginning, they pay attention to the elderly care, and they tell people don't go to visit them so that you don't bring the COVID-19 virus to the elderly. However, the elderly home didn't do very well the protection, or these, for example, masks or the other protective clothes or gloves and so on. There were some late or delay in this. And also maybe the nurses were not well trained. So there were cases that the nurses get infected and then they bring the virus to the elderly, and the elderly got infected very quickly and they die very quickly. A lot of them were unable to be taken to the intensive care, so they die in their beds. Of course, in Sweden, actually, the elderly home is also like 24 hours care. So they have a very, almost like a half a hospital or clinic. So they have doctors and nurses taking care of them. So normally they got a good care, but in terms of this COVID-19, this virus is really very, very serious. And especially those who are over 70 or 80 years old, they got the dementia. And so it is very difficult to rescue. So that's why half of these that died people are elderly people. And also another big group of deaths is from the Somalia group. Near Seasta in Stockholm, or Seasta is another important science park or science center, where there are a lot of Somalians or the Middle East or other immigrants living there. And from the very early stage, the first older person who died actually is a Somalian. And very quickly, there is a high rate of infection in the Somalian group or community. Why is that? According to the Swedish report from the Daily News, that they at the beginning said that these Somalians maybe don't understand the information, but the Somalian people don't admit that. They said they know the news, but their job are mostly service job. So like a sanitation worker, nurses or teachers. So they have to go out to work. So most people, if possible, you are persuaded to stay at home or work from home. But these people cannot work from home. They have to go out and do the service job. For example, the bus driver or those who work in the train station, cleaning, and so on. So they are exposed to the outside and they are vulnerable to get infected. Also, another situation is usually they have 5 or 7 people live in a villa or radhus, or lägenhet apartment. So they live actually quite crowded at home. So it is hard to isolate. And that is also why these people get infected. And elderly people are easy. Even they live at home, they are easy to, or vulnerable to die. Why Sweden gets so much infection? So I think it's because Sweden is really a very internationalized country. From beginning, I said, it's the first infected was actually from Wuhan, from China, but she didn't spread this to anyone. She isolated herself, quarantined for months, and then in the end, she was in hospital. And then by the time Sweden get a large-scale infection, she totally recovered. And those who come back from China also automatically, self-responsibly, they stay at home for 2 weeks. They quarantine and they don't go out and they isolate. And that is a very responsible and commendable action. However, at the end of February and early March, Sweden have a sport law, or it's called sport holiday or spring holiday. It's about a week. Many people, according to tradition, they go to Italy, go to Austria, Germany, and a lot of them go to Iran also. They have Iranian immigrants have relations there. So all these people coming back, then they bring back the virus. So the very first report was already 3 or 4. So 2 from Gothenburg, 1 from Uppsala, and a few from Stockholm. Very quickly, Stockholm became the most infected area. or region. And Sweden take the method that they said is the most relaxed method. So that is, you stay at home. If you have any symptom, if you sneeze, you cough, or you have a fever, you should stay at home. You should not go out. You should not go to work. And this is allowed. So immediately tax financial department give the policy to allocate funds for the businesses and for the people who want to take holiday. They can have the holiday or sick leave. So so at the beginning, they didn't really close down, and they didn't take very strict methods like the surrounding countries, Norway, Denmark, or Finland. But as I said, even they don't take that measures. They can't go to Denmark or Norway anyway, so they are in the middle. They just save the administration cost by not opening or closing. But they do suggest that people should not fly to other countries during this period. First until July, until June, mid-June, and now they suggest to August, the end of August. But Sweden really believe that if they rely on the people's willingness and self-responsibility, it still works. So they never give an order or give a law. It's always on the recommendation. Indeed, everywhere has this poster. So you keep distance, social distance, 2 meters, at least 1 meter from each other. Don't meet, don't go to the, for example, the market or shopping mall and so on. However, many shops also didn't close, and they just give this distance. And it works. Mostly, the schools also has been opening all the time. And of course, now it's on holiday, so students stay at home. But the children all play in the playgrounds, and it seems okay. So it is, right now they reflect a little bit in the elderly home. Indeed, it was the management there was not very good, and from beginning the responsibility was not very clear. The national level think it should be commune, take care of the elderly, and then the Medicare for the elderly was indeed not very well done. Somewhere they even report that there were bad quality of masks and so on. So from the very beginning, this protection work didn't work very well. But on the other hand, they try to avoid other problems like family violence, home violence, depression, serious psychological diseases and so on. Sweden is already well known in the psychological problem. So they try to do it in a kind of a light way. So I can understand that, actually. But I couldn't understand that they never say mask functions, or to wear a mask is a good way to protect. They always say it doesn't protect you even if you have a mask. So that really make a lot of people, yeah, they from beginning they didn't really wear masks. Many Swedish, of course, at the beginning, even they want to, there were no masks selling in the apotheke or drug store. But now there are more and more shops selling masks, and the drugstore also sell masks. And there are more and more people actually wearing masks. I believe that wearing masks is actually very useful, especially in Sweden. People think that if you wear a mask, it means you are ill, and you want to protect yourself from spreading to someone else. So if you wear a mask, people will not be near you. So you know you are safe, and then if they are not near you, then you are also safe. So it's good for all. So that is, yeah, finally the government reflect about the elderly care, and they continue to say that they are not really lifting any tight measures. They continue with same advice, wash your hands, keep social distancing, stay at home if you are ill, and don't travel abroad, and don't travel too much. So still continue to live in the new normal life. Okay, with that, we end this edition. I try to finish within 20 minutes. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.